your hands together for Mr. Keith Duffy, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Cheers, buddy. Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening. How are you? I hope you're having a good night. Sorry, this is a difficult one, to be honest. I've been trying to fundraise and make a difference to children with autism for 10 years now. And the reason for that is that 10 years ago, I was a very happy daddy. When mommy and baby are sent home from hospital, all healthy and well. And then 15 or 16 months later, you realize that something's not quite right with your little baby. And it's a worrying time, you know, and you hope that the problem is insignificant. You hope that maybe you're over worrying or overthinking something that, you know, it's going to go away tomorrow. And unfortunately, that doesn't happen, you know. So you try to figure out what it is, the problem at hand. And initially, we thought maybe, hopefully, our little girl was deaf. What kind of parent wishes their children deaf? But we knew if she was deaf, it was something that we might be able to work on. But if it was anything more than that, well, we didn't know what it was we would do. So, needless to say, we had hearing tests done. And I remember the Sister Lydia. She's a nun in Dublin. And she has been basically diagnosing children with hearing problems for 40 years. So we knew we were in the best hands. But she wasn't qualified to tell me anything else except whether my daughter was deaf or not. So when she told me that my daughter had no problems with her hearing, and she kind of looked at me with a certain look on her face to kind of say, but don't stop here. You're going to have to keep on, you know, figuring this out. There's another problem ahead of you, and it's not one that I can help you with. But she didn't have to say any of that. She couldn't say that. She wasn't qualified to say that. And there's certain people out there that would, you know, have her up in court for diagnosing when she wasn't qualified. So at that point in time, I knew I had a more significant problem, and I really didn't know what it was. I ended up getting a phone call from a guy, an old friend of mine, and he asked me to go along to a charity event, a golf charity event, and he said they just need somebody with a familiar face to stand in a photograph to try and get some press and to try and get some media surrounding the charity event that he was holding. I had no idea what the charity event was for, but nevertheless, I turned up. I had just gone home to Ireland after being away on the road for 8 years, and the profile was quite high at the time with the band. And I said, look, if I can lend my face to the event, you know, of course I'll do it. So I stood on the tee box, and the press all took photographs as I tried to swing a golf club. And as we walked back to the clubhouse with the guy that was organizing the event, having done all the press and the photographs, I said, what's your event for? And he said, it's for autism. It's for the education of autistic children. And I said, what is autism? And he said, it's a neurological developmental disorder. I said, I'm from the north side of Dublin. What the fuck does that mean? And he said, well, basically, it's a number of different disabilities that seem to be related together. And some children with autism, unfortunately, have all of these disabilities, and some children only have a few of them. But nevertheless, it's a very complex disability. And autism is a name pretty much given to these disabilities to help, like layman terms, help us understand that there's something wrong, that there's a problem, that it's not normal, that it's not the way we see right. So I started asking questions. I said, how does it manifest itself? How would you recognize this in a child? And I asked various questions. And every time I got an answer, I grew deeper and deeper worried and saddened. And at the time, I suppose what I'm saying to you is, gradually through every question, I knew that my little girl had autism. And it was killing me. I was dying inside. I I didn't want the answers anymore. I didn't want him to tell me any more answers because it was killing me. And I remember at the time, as much as I was upset and caring about this little girl that's fair chance had been taken from her, I was worried about, how am I going to tell her mother? How am I going to go home today and say, babe, I have the answer. I know what's wrong. Mia has autism. That's the part that really fucking worried me, killed me, because mammies and their babies, mammies and their daughters. And it was tough. And I remember getting into my car and driving home. I couldn't wait to get into my car that day because I was bursting inside. And this man that was answering the questions had a daughter who had autism, and he couldn't talk to me anymore. He could see he was killing me. So he called his wife and asked his wife to come to the clubhouse to speak with me. So she came and I spoke with her for a while. But at that point, I just needed to get home. I just needed to get home. And I got into my car, and it was raining, and the rain was lashing down, and I couldn't see the road in front of me with the tears in my eyes. I don't think I'd ever cried as much in my life. And I can't tell you today what specifically I was crying about. It was a number of different things. My life as I knew it was over. I was devastated. As you can imagine, you just want your family to be well, you know? You work hard, you try hard, and you just, you know, you want to be able to be in control of what happens to your family, especially your children. You want to be able to protect them. And when the realization hits you that you can no longer protect your child because the problem is greater than what you can actually achieve. So I got home, and obviously I'd been crying. I didn't actually make it home on my own. I had to pull over and called my brother, and my brother came to the motorway and put me in the car and drove me home. And I went into the house. He said, look, I'll wait outside in the car. He said, if you don't come out to me in 15 minutes, I'll go home. But I'll wait here to make sure everything's okay. So I went in, and I said to my wife, Lisa, I said, babe, she goes, what's wrong? Your eyes are all red. What's wrong? And I said, Mia's autistic. And Lisa, I remember, now you have to remember, we both knew there was something coming. We both knew, but we had no name for it. We didn't know what it was. But we knew there was something coming, but we were hiding. We were pretending it didn't, you know, it's not going to happen. We're wrong. Somebody's going to tell us we're all wrong and everything is okay. But that didn't happen. Lisa boxed me. I don't mean with an open hand. I mean with a punch. She boxed me. And I took it, and I knew. And then she hugged me, and then she kissed me, and then we cried. And then I said, right, what are we going to do? What is autism? What can we do to help our daughter? Where do we go? What do we need to do? And that's when our journey started. It was right there that our journey started. Mia, at that point, was 18 months old. She didn't speak. She had never even verbalized. Obviously, this could be a long story, and I don't want to bore you. So we went on the road, and like most parents that may be here tonight, parents of children with autism or parents of children with disability, one person goes one way, and the other parent goes the other way. And that happens. That's normal. Eventually, you curve back around, and you start working together as a team. One parent always goes into denial, and the other parent, to try and deal with the frustration, gets stuck into finding out what the problem was. And then you dovetail. Then you fall apart 3 months later, and the other parent kicks in. That's the way it happens. I've seen it in many families. That's what happened to us. So I tried to figure out what autism was. I tried to figure out what was needed. Number one, what was needed was a diagnosis. We need a diagnosis. We have to get someone to tell us, yes, your daughter has autism. Could I get a diagnosis? No. 2.5-year waiting list to get a diagnosis for your child. Anybody that I spoke to that was educated on autism told me that early intervention is essential for the future of your child. Early intervention is essential for any type of quality of life for your child. How can you get early intervention if you can't get a fucking diagnosis? So, like a lot of families, I had to go and find someone that would take that lovely little brown envelope under the table and diagnose my daughter. That's what happened. I wasn't going to wait on any waiting list. Luckily, I was in the position to be able to do that. Nobody chooses what way their children are going to come along. And some people are not in the position to do that. So a waiting list is not the way forward. We've got to, embrace that. Anyway, I had the diagnosis now. So what's next? Early intervention, applied behavior analysis, one-to-one teaching. Where do you get that? Not existent. Non-existent. It doesn't happen. So luckily, I managed to find other parents in the same position as myself. I managed to meet some amazing people. And between all of us parents, we got together and we fundraised and we had nights like tonight and we got our money together and we made a difference and we opened our first school. We adopted a form of education called applied behavioral analysis. It's a one-to-one teaching program that will educate these children. These children have sensory issues, which basically means, for example, I'm talking to you, you can hear me, but there's sometimes surrounding noises, not many tonight, but people talking, clattering of glasses, whatever. They hear all these noises amplified equally, so they cannot concentrate. They can't be educated in an ordinary school setting. So they need one-to-one teaching. They need somebody sitting in front of them with eye contact, helping them get their motor skills together, educating these kids on how to be educated. But it works. It's so effective. 10, 15, 20 years ago, these kids were not understood. Because they didn't respond like we do, they were shafted aside, put in a corner, put into institutes and fucking, sedated to a chair. That's completely crazy. In our lifetime, that happened. If they get the appropriate education, the one-to-one education intervention that I'm talking about, these kids respond. They respond unbelievably. They come around. They are a part of our society, a part of our life. They hear everything we say, even though they don't respond the way you expect them to. It all goes in. They have the affection and the love that we have. They just don't know how to show it. They need to be educated on how to show that love and affection, how to feel part of our society. They're so clever. Never make that mistake. So we got this school open. We got 6 kids in the school. It was very expensive, as you can imagine, because we had 6 teachers for 6 kids. We got partial funding from the government because it was a project for 12 months. Within 12 months, we expanded the school and we got another 12 kids in. So now we had 18 kids and we had 18 teachers. My daughter didn't get in on the first 6. She got in on the second 12. So she was in there from the age of 2. She never spoke. She was nonverbal. People say, autism is a spectrum disorder. So it goes from quite severe or mild to very severe. And all that, there's nothing set in stone. Kids change all the time. Every child with autism is different, like every child is different. So these kids can't be labeled. They're individuals. So what we wanted to try and do through the school was to give these children an opportunity to reach their full potential in life. Every single one of them, to reach whatever their full potential is. And this school was absolutely amazing for us. Mia went through the school. She was there for 5 years. After the 4th year in the school, they decided to try and integrate her into an ordinary mainstream school, which was huge. She still wasn't speaking. She was using a system called a PEC system, Picture Exchange Communication, which is basically a number of Polaroid pictures that are on Velcro on a chart in your kitchen or in your living room. And they might have a picture of a bottle or a blanket or their favorite crisps or their favorite jelly tots or whatever. And if they want something, because they can't communicate, they will come and you have to teach them to take this picture off the chart and hand it to you. And if the picture is of their bottle, you bring them and you hand them the bottle and you try and make them say thank you. Now, you might just get a mutter. You might just get some sort of whatever. It doesn't matter. Whatever you get is a start. You hand them the bottle and you make them say, you say, you're welcome. And then they put the photograph back on the chart. That's the way we did it. Nowadays, we have the iPad, which has proven to be absolutely fucking genius for these kids. But our story, there was no iPads. This worked for me, but she still wasn't talking. School had integrated, like I said, into a national school for a half an hour a week, doing playtime with the other kids, social interactivity with the other kids, half an hour of maths. building it up to a half an hour of maths, half an hour of English, half an hour of playtime. Eventually, we had Mia in the school for one whole day in 1 week. We built on that, and we got her in for 2 whole days. We're at home one Sunday afternoon. She was 6 years of age. She had never spoken, never said a word. My wife's heart was broken. We've got a son who's a great guy. We've got a daughter, and that mommy-daughter relationship was not there. And she was heartbroken. But we were working our ass off to try and do whatever we could to make Mia, help Mia reach her full potential. She loved watching musicals. She loved watching movies where people were singing. She stood when the TV was there. And we just, what do you do? Do you let her do that? Is that wrong? Who's to know? She did that. Sunday afternoon, sitting in my living room, my mother and father-in-law, my wife, dying with a hangover, been out the night before. Mia was in her room doing her thing like she does. She skips through the room, through the kitchen, to the goodie press, helps herself. It's a Sunday, treat day. She can do what she likes. Takes her bits and pieces, runs out. Normal. She comes in about an hour later. We're all sitting there. Skips through the room. Annie was one of the favorite movies she used to watch. Skips into the room and starts singing Tomorrow. Now, obviously, she'd never sang or spoken before. But she started singing Tomorrow. But she sang it like she was deaf because she'd never heard herself speak before. So it was like, tomorrow, tomorrow, which sounds a little bit morbid. But Jesus, it was fucking amazing. There wasn't a dry eye in the house. It meant everything was working. It meant the education was working. It meant things were going in the right direction. The government didn't provide that. The state didn't provide that. Parents of children with autism provided that school. We couldn't believe it. You can imagine. It was a fantastic day. She went on from that to start speaking. She started verbalizing. You know, we got to the stage when she'd go to the chart and she'd pick off her bottle and I'd say bottle. She'd say, bottle. I'd say thank you. She'd grab the bottle and she'd say, you're welcome. And she'd run. You know, it was amazing. So we knew we had something. We knew from all the people that I had spoke to that was giving me a negative end, that was giving me a full stop. I wasn't listening to them. I knew we could, things could happen here. There's light at the end of the tunnel. We need to keep going and keep fighting, not give up. This can really, really go somewhere. So she continued to go to the schools. Her speech came on, but it came on with an American accent. She called me Papa. She calls me up and goes, hey, Papa, I miss you. I kind of think I'm a big fucking movie star in LA going, I miss you too, baby. She's amazing. She's brilliant. And this is a positive story, and that's why I'm telling you. Mia left that school after 5 years of being there. Her speech came on. We had speech and language therapists. Her speech came on fantastic. Mia lived in an isolated world. She lived on her own. She lived under her bed. If we took her out of the house, she had a blanket over her head. She had no eye contact with anybody. She used to do what we call tensing, which is kind of like this. We used to think it was quirky and funny before we knew what autism was. All these things still are there. She still has autism. She'll always have autism. But with this education that we provide, it helps her deal with her autism. It helps her understand that she's different and that appropriate behavior in certain areas is good for her. And doing these silly behaviors that other people don't recognize should be done when she has time on her own at home in her bedroom. Not that it should be gone. Everybody's individual. Let her do what she needs to do. Let these kids do what they need to do. But help them to survive in our society so that people don't point a finger. Kids are the cruelest people in the world. They bully kids when they're different. So we try to make our kids equal and make sure that they're not, standing out. And that's only a problem, really, because we want them to be secure in their own skin. We don't want them to feel that they're different. But we educate them that they are. And we educate them how to live a life in our society. She's now in second level school. She had a special needs assistant when we eventually integrated her full-time international school. She survived very well with a special needs assistant in the classroom. Eventually, we took the special needs assistant outside, and she absolutely survived on her own 2 feet. This September, she started second level school with all new subjects like science and business studies. Now remember, this is a little girl that couldn't speak till she was 7. She had no eye contact, no affection, no love. She's the most loving, affectionate little girl now because of the appropriate intervention at the right time of her life. That's golden. That's key. That's what we need to do. 2.5-year waiting list. We got rid of that. We started our own diagnostic and report centre in Ireland, and we diagnosed over 430 children ourselves by a state-recognised psychologist. We got rid of the waiting list. We set up the schools. There's 12 schools across Ireland now providing appropriate applied behaviour analysis. There's home projects that we do, home reach-out projects that we do to educate the children at home that can't get a placement in these schools because they're not readily available. We've waiting lists for these schools the length of both of my arms, but the results are there. I say at home in Ireland that every child born into the state in Ireland, and it appeals here too, every child born into the state of the United Kingdom is entitled to a free education. What we need to amend is we need to say every child born into the UK is entitled to a free, appropriate education. And if we can change that, thank you. If we can change that, we change everything. We give these kids an opportunity, a chance to survive, to live their life to the fullest, to give them an opportunity to reach their own true potential, whatever that might be. Now, not every child with autism is going to succeed like our Mia did, like our mini miracle. We're delighted, we're over the moon, we're very grateful. But the opportunity for every child to reach their own true potential, it's a much better place for that child to be than this child being left and pushed aside and sedated to a chair and not given that opportunity. So a school in Manchester is absolutely important. A school across the UK is important. But with the Hearts and Minds Foundation and the relationship with Irish Autism Action, it gives us the opportunity, and me, who's someone who considers Manchester as a second home, where I've got some fantastic friends, people that I consider family here, the people I've worked with in Corrie, the guys I've met while working in Corrie. You know, Manchester's an extremely important place to me. So the relationship for Irish Autism Action and the Hearts and Minds is extremely important. And we're better than to bring what we've learned over the last 10 years. We're better to start than Manchester. So our relationship, thank you. Our relationship with Hearts and Minds will continue to go on after tonight, but for our first ball together in Manchester, tonight is a huge success. You know, what we do together, we've cycled from Geneva to Monte Carlo. We're cycling across Spain next year. You know, we work together all the time. This is the first ball. But the key and the message tonight is simple. We cannot forget about our children. They're our future. We cannot, you know, put these kids with autism aside. I'm telling you firsthand, not from Boyzone, not from Coronation Street, as a father of a little girl with autism who has lived the last 10 years fighting this battle, if we give them the appropriate intervention at the right stage of their life, the appropriate education, these children can go on to fulfill their own lives, to live in our society, to be counted, to stand up, to have a job, to maybe one day fall in love, to be in a relationship, to live a fulfilled life. If we don't make a difference, if we don't give them the education they need, nobody's going to do it. So I plead with you, like I say, as a father of a child with autism who has told you the success story, and this success story can be for all these children. I'm telling you, I don't want to go on too much, but I had to just explain to you where I'm coming from. This is important. This can happen. We can do it with your help. It's people like you that have helped us in the past that have made us achieve what we've achieved. So please, tonight, you know, if you can, please dig deep. Help us do this. Help us get this first school open in Manchester. Help us give the children of Manchester an iPad, because this PEC system doesn't need to happen. An iPad has proven to be not a luxury item. It's counted as a luxury. In a child's life with autism, an iPad is not a luxury item. It's an essential item. They're fucking 500 quid. Most families can't afford that for the children. If they can't afford it, well, then we need to try and provide it if we can. So tonight is about making a difference for these kids, giving them a chance to survive in our society, give them a chance to fall in love, give them a chance to live a life. I'm a father of a child of autism. She's doing great, thanks to people like you. So thanks for listening to me. Thanks for being here tonight. Thanks to Hearts and Minds, and have a great night. Thank you.